Welcome along to a Big Red Bench production this evening of a preview of the County Senior Hurling Championship Final between Midleton and Imokilly, and joined on the Big Red Bench by Jerry Wallace, a renowned coach, a Midleton man as well, Cork minor camogie manager this year, winning the All-Ireland for the first time ever. Seanie McGrath needs no introduction, former Cork selector and coach from the Glen. The man in the middle this evening in case any row breaks out between Imokilly and Midleton, and a late replacement for Mark Landers, who unfortunately had to pull out this evening, but we didn't go too far away. We went to another Killaman in Sean Crowley GDA with Cork GA. Lads, very welcome.
Thanks, Ciarán.
Thanks, Ciarán.
Unique final this weekend, Imokilly and Midleton. I suppose, Jerry, starting with yourself as a Midleton man, it's the first time they've ever met at this stage of the final, but very unique all the same.
Very unique, great occasion for everyone in the parish, you know, from the River Lee down, say from the Christie Ring Bridge, the tunnel down, right down into the parishes of East Cork. Like, all the families are intertwined, you know, families have, you know, relations on both teams, you know, fantastic occasion, and, you know, maybe we should be playing it down in Castlemartyr next Sunday rather than above in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, like, you know, and keep it down inside in the division, like we are, you know, the home of hurling, the division of Imokilly, like, so I think we should be staying down. Seanie might have a word on that there now in a minute, but before we go any further, Ciarán, things have improved. Mark Landers, they have sweets tonight for us here.
We had the sweets and the buns, which you can't see now, but you scoffed them all outside before we came in. Seanie, I presume obviously naturally you'd rather the Glen to be in the final, but look, it is a unique pairing all the same anyway.
Yeah, and parochial stuff, local stuff, as Jerry said, East Cork stuff, and that brings its own spice. Taking the line from Jerry, I suppose, outside, he was just giving us some of the connections and the lineage and all that. Fellas related to this fella and that fella, and sisters and brothers and the whole lot. And that all adds to the fervour and the whole lot of a game, particularly a final. And I suppose, you know, apart from the fact that there's two East Cork teams, I think the two of them are there on merit as well. I think they've been the standout teams from the championship. Midleton at times have limped over games, but they have the standout players, the marquee players. So I think the two of them are there on merit. And, you know, it'll add a little bit to the occasion, but at the end of the day, it's a final. You've got to focus on the final, forget about the relationship piece, and go in and win your championship and win your battle. But without doubt, the two of them are there on merit. They've been by far and away, I think, the best two teams in the championship to date.
And Sean, yourself as a Killaman?
As a Killaman, I suppose, but I suppose, you know, when I was a young boy, I remember Imokilly made a breakthrough. I think it was 95. I think they beat Midleton in the All. I remember going out to it, and I think it was the first big win Imokilly had as a division in a number of years. And I like, Midleton were coming off, I suppose, a few county finals at that stage. Jerry weren't, and it was a huge result for Imokilly, and Imokilly did it down in 96, the county final against Avondhu, you know. So, like, Killa didn't go up till 2001, so I have fond memories of supporting Imokilly. My father was a selector in 96 actually with them when they lost to Avondhu, and I remember the replay and all that. So, you know, I don't think they've played since 95. They have the championship.
No, we haven't crossed paths, so Sunday's
payback
is new territory, I suppose, like, you know, and a lot of the current squad wouldn't remember those earlier occasions either, like, but I suppose, look, it's a new chapter in the history of hurling in East Cork and in the division, like, to see the two teams contesting the final. You know?
I think last time Imokilly were in two finals in a row, they won both, I think, as well.
97, 98, yeah.
97, 98, yeah. But look, you know, they have their things to worry about next Sunday, and we have our things to worry about. But we're all in good faith for it, like, you know. At this one time, going back to that night in Youghal, that was a famous night in Youghal, like, for Imokilly. We had a very good team at the time. Germanley had just joined Midleton, and, you know, it was a night that, like, left a sour note on all of us, I suppose, that night, because we were hoping to move on and build on the team that had won earlier, the Fintan era and so forth. Didn't happen for us, didn't work out, and, you know, fair play to Imokilly. You know, all the clubs have in the division have always looked up to Midleton and looked towards Midleton. You know, every Monday night there, I think the East Cork board comes to Midleton, has their meetings there, and, you know, there's always been a great relationship there. Then we've other clubs that are not part of the Imokilly squads on Sunday. We've SARS, you know, we have Erin's Own, Bride Rovers, Youghal, they're all playing senior hurling, Killa. You know, so I mean, like, Imokilly or some squad on Sunday, they're an inter-county team, like, on Sunday, like, and, you know, they have huge ammunition on the field and off the field for Sunday, like, so.
Yeah, we'll touch on the teams in a few minutes, but Seanie, the championship as a whole, how do you think it's gone this year?
I suppose, like, the championship has been in the spotlight, not just our championship, but championships across the country, because of how late they've been, or not necessarily how late they've been, but the lag between first round games in April and then, you know, coming into the end of August, September kind of thing. And I think clubs have been very good and have equipped themselves very well by keeping players fit and enthusiastic and the whole lot, not going to the States or going away, because, you know, I think the club stuff is deteriorating year on year. And even though this year has been an absolutely incredible inter-county year, I was involved as a selector with the Glen this year, and it was terribly frustrating. And it actually felt like the most frustrating year of the lot. And maybe it is because you go to matches as a Cork fan and you get drawn into the whole inter-county thing. But at the end of the day, then you're worried about your club player. Is he going to have the bite? Is he going to stay fit? So, okay, look, when it kicked off, it was a decent championship. I suppose as a neutral now at this stage, and when the Glen were knocked out, it became a neutral then. Obviously, I was Glen motivated up to the night against Midleton. Then you kind of take a step back and you start looking at players individually, not necessarily the team, and what player is standing out in championship, who's done well. And I think there's been a few. You know, I think from John Myler's point of view, he'll have spotted a few players that have stepped up. I thought Stephen Murphy had a good campaign for Blackrock throughout the year. Michael O'Halloran at times has struggled at inter-county level, but played some really good stuff for Blackrock as well. Tyg Deasy has played well. So I think there's been players that have stepped up a bit and have put themselves maybe into the spotlight in the shop window for Cork selection next year. And as I said at the onset, I do think that the top teams this year have made the final. I don't think you can have any complaints with who's there. I personally never had a complaint, and I know out there people will say about the divisional thing and the UCC thing, but for me, you know, you go in there, you prepare. With Imokilly aside, most divisions don't prepare as well as Imokilly. Certainly UCC don't have the players at their disposal like club teams do. So I think you only have yourself to blame if you get beaten by them. And a small bit odd there with the lads earlier when they're on about 95, because they obviously see Midleton a bigger scalp to the Glen, because it was actually Imokilly beat the Glen in the first round inside Midleton. I was playing the same night. It was about a week after the college exams, so I blame a bad performance on my college exams and being up late. But it was Imokilly actually beat off that. Like
Reardon's was just up and running at that stage. Sean, he was down there. I heard, you know, having a.
It was a crazy horse. It was a crazy horse that day.
You mentioned it's been a long championship year. I think it started on the 22nd of March was the very first outing in the Senior Hurling Championship this year. Some coaches were saying there was 2 seasons. You were effectively 2 seasons.
Yeah, like we went back in late January into February, and a massive focus on the Ballymartle game. Get our fellas right. We played the last week, end I think of April. And then a major downer, like just way down, and trying to keep fellas ticking over, trying to get challenge games up the country. But then you found when you went up to Tip in these places that they were in the exact same boat. So, and again, no, this isn't a gripe against it or making a statement that, you know, every year people make the point and no one is coming up with a solution. I haven't got the solution either. It's easy to be standing on the fence making these comments. But I still, as a club player now heavily involved in the club, it is frustrating.
Yeah.
Like.
I just, on that point, I think, you know, this year, like, the lads are from 2 big clubs, I suppose, in senior, and I remember Killa lost to Douglas in the first round. And I think from a losing perspective in the first round, you know, it's a desperate downer for the next 3 months, trying to wait to get back on the wheels again, get the show on the road. And I think, like, from even a panel perspective, I know fellas who would feel hard done by not getting on the first day. You know, they just kind of start dwindling and walking away as the season goes on. You know, so like 50% of the teams would have lost the first round this year, and you could see that in a lot of clubs they struggled. And I think, you know, when the county season finished and the club championship kicked back in, there was a good bit of excitement the last few weeks, and there was a good build up. And if the first round had been held off to that stage, I think, you know, everyone would have been probably happier, you know. But then the way it was handled this year.
Yeah, and it is a big debate. It's a debate that has to be addressed and has to be looked at seriously. Well, Cork in particular, for our own needs. Like, I think the one worrying aspect is the longer we allow this sort of a situation develop, long term it mightn't be good for us as a county, because like we might lose players like immigrating out to America, to London, or, you know, if an option to work abroad comes, they'll go, because like the clubs can only do so much. The resources are tight enough with all the clubs. Like every club is under pressure, so they are trying to redevelop or trying to upgrade their facilities. Modern preparation of teams now with the modern players seems to, the players are demanding a bit more, or the clubs are demanding more, and the spectators demanding more. Even the modern media, like the way the games have been reported on, is more modern now. But I think that as a collective body, and I'm a GM, and Shawnee, and we're all GM, and like, so we, like, I think we need to mind our players and not become like the Munster situations or the Leinster situations in the other sports, like where it becomes elitist. I think that we need to mind it because our game is based off of the tradition of the clubs, the tradition of the parish. You know, inside in Midleton we have the Farkhams, you know, we have the Sons of Rests within our own town. There's divisions within our own town, and our families come from those divisions. You know, within the towns, and in the old days we had street leagues and so forth. It might be the same in Killa, it might be the same up around the Glen.
Yeah.
You know, parts of those townlands within those little communities, and they're vital to the GA. That's what keeps the GA going. Like, and at the end of the day, next Sunday, mums, dads, brothers, sisters, uncle, aunts, grandmothers will be listening to the radio stations. Everyone will be tuning in because at the end of the day, the GA is providing a massive service to us. But there is certainly a problem with the promotion of our game. And that's no fault of anyone because everyone is trying to find a solution, but someone, and the think tank needs to be sorted out, and someone needs to take a kind of a direction on the route that we're going to go in relation to it, you know, because, you know, it's interesting to hear Killa's situation there, like where players were being lost. It was the same in my own situation 3 years ago when I managed Midleton. We lost the semi-final of the county to Ciarán's Own. We had Red FM League games to finish out. We finished them out, and but it was very hard to get players to come out and play because the season was over and fellas wanted to wind down and go on and move, do their own thing.
Hard to blame them.
Hard to blame them, like.
Well, Midleton are still in the championship. We've heard from Glenn. Disappointing year from Killa's perspective, losing as well last night in the under-21s to Newtown.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I wasn't trying to rub
No,
it
I
in,
know.
sorry.
Yeah, no. Look, it was a disappointing year. I think, you know, I was involved a few years ago, and we got to relegation finals and we lost, and you know, there was a big debate in the club whether we go down or not, and it's kind of still ongoing, to be honest. We had a meeting earlier in the week, and you know, like it's a tricky one. You know, people are involved with the club for a number of years, and you know, they love the club and the hard work from going from junior to intermediate to senior. And people might, from the outside, might say, "Jesus, aren't they better off going down intermediate?" But it's a very hard thing to do for a club to take the step back. And you know, I don't know. Like, I do think a solution could be if there was a senior B championship introduced. That might not be as big a blow to clubs with a bit of pride, and they might go into it and let them play off or something like that. But like last year, we got to the league final. Obviously, we lost to Stars by 3 points, and we beat Douglas in the first round or the second round of the championship last year. And you know, we narrowly got knocked out of the championship, and there would have been a bit of optimism this year going into it. But look, like we were going through it the other night, we lost 4 players from the starter team last year, and they were all only 22, 23 years of age, and you just can't afford to do that in a small village like Killa. So, you know, it's been disappointing. And last night we were leading all through. We got caught with a late goal, and Newtown have a good team as well, and they're out deserving winners. But you know, we just haven't kicked on the way we would have hoped from last year. You know.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there was a very strong breeze inside
Yeah.
the last night with gale force. But come here, back to the county final in Imokilly and Midleton. We've talked about the Imokilly team is almost like a county team. Matchups. Who's going to be marking who, do you think? It's going to be, like, I think Conor Lehan has scored 230. He's the highest scorer this year in the county championship. Like, it'll be very important who goes on hitting Conor. Like.
Jerry loved the inside information there. So
Yeah, he's not going to give it away anyway.
Well, the last rumour I heard about Connor's in London at the moment,
Yeah.
so whether he'll be home now or not.
A desperate injury as well. Any injury as well.
Altogether, like, so. Very big doubt that Conor will be on the field on Sunday, like, you know, so.
Yeah, let's stop. Will you? We're not going to fall for that one, in fairness, Jerry.
I'd expect Colin Spillane, like, I don't know, but I'd expect Colin Spillane would be a good match for Conor. You know, Sunday
Yeah.
he'd certainly be
Yeah.
the fellow I'd be picking out. But like in McKilly, I suppose are fortunate that, you know, if things aren't going right for Colin, they've other people that can step into to mark Conor. I know John Cronin there now is wing back. If Conor came out in the half back line, or Niall O'Leary, they're all good defenders, you know. So like Conor's injury would be a worry from Milton's perspective, because I think the longer Milton can stay in the game, you know, they need to be finishing the game strong, and that was kind of shown with McKilly in the past. You know, like you can hit McKilly with early blows, but they'll keep coming back because they'll get scores a bit easier up the field. But it's late on in the game, you know, you need to make everything count. And like if Conor's injury is as bad as it's made out to be, I'd be seriously concerned for Milton. But I don't think it is. I think he's had a good recovery, and I think
I do think there was a couple of elderly men with Conor there recently, and I think it was before the Newtown game, and you know, then again before the Blackrock game, and they were asking Conor how he was, and he was, you know, injured. And one of the old fellas turned to him and he says, well, he says, Lehan, I don't mind you being injured once you score 1-9 or 1-8 every year to us. So maybe these injuries are a good thing for Conor Lehan. Like, you know, maybe they're a good
but
thing for him. Like.
even on that, I was a selector with the minors in 2010. It's gas. And even when you call tallies like that, Jerry, you know, you analyse a game after, and it was against Tip. Yeah, we beat him. It was a great game. The Bud was playing. It was a massive score, went extra time. And kind of reflecting and going back up the bus and back up to where we were going after. And the fella saying, like, Conor, he was okay tonight. He got 7 points from play. He's an incredible hurler, from that point of view. Like, he gets, I suppose in some quarters gets stick, maybe for inconsistency or whatever you want to call it. But for me, he's just a phenomenal hurler. And I don't think he gets the accolades at times that he deserves.
Well, he's a marquee player, like, you know.
Yeah, and these flary kind of players at times, they don't always kind of maybe do it, you know, on a consistent basis, 7-8 points a game. But when the guy plays, again, Croke Park this year against Limerick, and against us, you know, we Stephen McDonald is a super defender, you know, as good a defender it's out there. And he was just phenomenal. Like, he got a point off his left in the first half. It was like he put a kind of a bird, like a spin on it, and brought it in from right to left. Like, he's a super hurler, and his movement is brilliant. And Midleton, in fairness, as an attacking formation, like, they play really, really to bring him into play. Their half forward line will pull out. There's loads of movement. They hit him early, and then he kind of ball high or low. And the two corner forwards work extremely hard on as well, and try and create as much space as they can. And yeah, the matchups will be important, but the game plan will be important as well. Try and cut out that space. They've got a very good half back line in Imokilly. Niall O'Leary is a good player, as Sean said. John Cronin is good. And Ciarán O'Regan next from St. Edith's is a good player as well. So cutting out supply, midfield will have to be extremely busy. Midleton's midfield will have to be extremely busy. Their half forward line will have to be busy to make sure that, you know, ball isn't coming down the field quickly from the half back line, from the Midleton half back. Imokilly will have to be working extremely hard. And that's maybe where the supply for Conor will be a little bit different the next day. I think Mark O'Keefe midfield from Imokilly is an extremely good player. He can score as well. Very, very busy. And the addition of Bill Cooper there as well. So you John Mellerick, I think, there last year. Now you've Bill there this year. An inter-county player coming in. And like any fella that plays with Bill at inter-county level will tell you, one standout thing about him is his work rate. He's vicious. He's up and down the field. And for Imokilly maybe to prosper the next day, you know, that's probably the message that Fergal Condon and these fellas will be drilling. Like, the defence starts from our half forward line. Do not get that supply into Lehan. Cut it out early. And if it is going in, cut it, make sure it's coming in pressurised, and he has to contest these 60-40, 50-50 balls. Do not let it go outside him, because he'll kill you if he gets the right ball.
And I do think, like, even before you get on to matchups, I think Imokilly have a quandary at the moment. I think they have they're in a bit of a quandary. I think they don't know what their best 15 is. I think they have a problem, because there's loyalty towards the players that supported them all year long in their campaign, but then there are players that played there last year that are now available. There's 4 coming in back in there from Father O'Neill's. Like, I mean, Fergal and his management team have pressure on them now to select the right team for Imokilly. Midleton don't have that pressure. We know what our boys are capable of doing, and we know, like, we'll go man for man. We'll play our positions. I don't think we'll earmark anyone to mark anyone. I think we'll play and stand as men and fight our own causes on Sunday. So I think our game management, to us as Midleton supporters, our worry this Sunday would be, when we're not in control of the game, there are times of the game will drift from us, and we have seen it over the last few Sundays in the championship when we have played. We saw it against the Glen, we saw it against Newtown, we saw it in the semi-final against Blackrock. When our concentration levels left us for a while, it's what we'll do in that period of the game is going to be fierce important for Midleton, because we can't allow ourselves to go out of the game and allow Imokilly to be like the Kilkenny teams under Cody, where they were tipping over 8 or 9 points and creeping away. If we can hold Imokilly to the last 10 minutes of this game close and in a contest, I would back us to come down the home straight as winners.
You kind of touched it there now as well. You kind of let Blackrock back into the semi-final. Now, to be fair to Tommy and goals, he pulled off some super saves, and how influential will Luke O'Farrell be this weekend?
Your Tommy was as good as your Cunningham and Cusick and Nash in his day,
all
like,
in one,
all in one. Like, he had it all in one on the day. Like, whatever happened to him, and he got a kick in his head as well during the course of one of those bits of action. You know,
no pressure on him there, Johnny.
There was no pressure on him. Like, he was lucky there was no Seanie McGrath coming in. And
I never got a goal. I deflected over.
Seanie would have tapped it over for the easy option. Like, and, you know, if O'Grady
won't dispute that.
Seanie put it in the back of the net, but I think, like, if you looked at the second half of that game the last day, like, I think when Blackrock will sit back and they'll analyse their performance on the day, they'll have regrets, because if they had gone direct, we were under fierce pressure. You know, we were under fierce pressure, and when they came direct at us down the middle, it tested our young man at centre back, O'Leary Hayes, and it also, you know, tested Finbar O'Mahony inside at full back for the evening. And I think next Sunday we'll have the same test. Like there's ammunition there, you know, Seamus Harnedy and Paddy Sull, you know, in around there. Then there's options coming off the bench as well, like for McKilly there. But I like, you know, it's a county final, and I think the tradition of our lads, you know, there's huge tradition in our team. Like, it's like the Glyn teams or the Newtown, the club teams. In our team, we've huge tradition in the families that are involved. You know, behind closed doors at home in the evening times. Like, those boys know all about the history of our club. You know, they're a very shrewd, clued-in group of players. You know, they look after themselves very well. But like, they're looking forward so much to this, because since 2013, Ciarán, like, you know, I had the pleasure of being involved with them and helping out over those in the few years as well with the team. Like, we've lost county semi-finals, and it's so hard to win a county championship in Cork. Like, now that we're there, and now that we're 60 minutes away from having a chance to win it again, like, I know that these boys have had so much hurt since the age of 12, losing county premier under 12s, 14s, 16s. You know, they didn't start to win until they were minors, you know, and now they're back again. And you know, I think we've a massive chance on Sunday, like, you know. And each of those boys will die for this team on Sunday. They won't be found wanting in those regards. Like, I just hope that Kerwin decides, you know, and he's the referee on Sunday. Like, I think he has a big, I think the ref has a huge part to play on Sunday for the Cork public, the Cork hurling public, to allow a game of hurling amongst two teams that want to play with fire and passion. Imokilly want to play with fire and passion. Midleton want to play with fire and passion. I've no doubt that Fergal Condon and George Fitzgerald will have a go off each other on the sideline. Peter Smith and Derek Barrett will bring back the old Imokilly, Midleton, Seanie on Sunday. And like, so be. Let them have a bit of fun on the line, and let's have a few skirmishes. But let's see a game of hurling that represents what Cork is about, like, you know what I mean? And let's give John Moyler something to be looking at, and let's give the rest of the community something to look at. And let the patrons that are coming in paying €25 on Sunday to Páirc Uí Chaoimh see a right good game of hurling. That's what I'd be love to see.
We might touch on that in a minute. Johnny, just how influential, you know him through your years with Cork, Luke O'Farrell, how influential can he be? He's played very well this year. Not
he has been
involved
outstanding.
In the Cork team.
Yeah, and I'd say at the start of the year, look, far be it from me to question anything John Moyler has done and will do in the future, because I've great time for John. I go way back with John Moyler, actually. I know Sean does a lot of work at underage level, and I had John at under 16 in 1991. It was kind of a Cork City team that time. Kind of the same now, Shandoon, like. But to be honest, John Moyler was like a god to us that time, you know. He was a big, strong, powerful man, and we was training up in Bishopstown, and he was come out and do the training. He was falling with us. He'd play if we were short for a man, he'd fall in. And then he was a minor manager in 92. Beaten in the first round, we were lucky, we were beaten by tip. But I always liked him. I liked him as a person. He's abrasive, and he lets you know what he's thinking, and that's fair enough as well. I think he's done a marvellous job. Look, I know him, so I'll always question him. I think he might have got the Luke O'Farrell thing wrong this year, to be honest. I just thought, having been in the camp from 2012 to 2015 with Cork, I always rated Luke.
Do you think that's maybe he's had a better year this year, not being involved in the Cork?
Yeah, but I thought last year he was good as well. Like, I thought he was good with Cork. I thought he came on and he did unseen work. I mean, that famous point that Cahalane set up for Patrick. Fellas forget that Luke was the middleman. It was who Cahalane offloaded it. It was Luke, and Luke just gave a lovely pop pass to Hoggy, and Hoggy took it and scored, which was an exceptional score with Patrick as well. But Luke was in the middle of the whole move, and he kind of got overlooked a little bit. And I thought he came on at times last year and flashed over a score, or got a free, or flashed in a ball and set up a score. And I know when we were there, we had great time for him. No, I've no doubt John made the call and that's it. But it maybe gave Luke a bit of fire in the belly. Probably his lowest scoring game. He didn't score against the Glen. He's been scoring well against every other team. But even that night, he caused us fierce problems. His movement was brilliant. He was going from wing to wing. And while we were trying to keep an eye on Lahan, who was chalking up massive scores, it was Luke all the time dragging his man around. And when I spoke earlier about movement and creating space for Conor, Luke was phenomenal at that. And then allied to that, later on in the campaign, 3 or 4 points against Newtown. I think he got a goal and a point the last day. His scoring rate now has gone up. So yeah, I think he's been exceptional. I think he's probably done enough at this stage to put a bit of pressure on the Cork selectors to have a look at him. And I'm fond of him. I like to see fellas like Luke do well. He's flashy, he brings a bit of something to the crowd, he's fast and he's pacey, and I hope it's a good game Sunday.
I know Sean won't mind this, but wouldn't it be great if Midleton won on Sunday, Luke captain of Midleton and being then captain in Cork next year? Like John would have to bring him back to captain Cork next year.
To be lucky to do that now, like good tactical.
Why not? Like, you know.
No, and I think you know, like looking back now in hindsight, you say, look, he wouldn't have been a great player to come on against Limerick, but for Luke himself, I think, you know, the lad said he was probably hurt and annoyed. He's still young. I think he's only 28, like, or 29, you know, so he, and you know, the one thing Luke Farrell has is serious pace. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing a defender wants but to be marking a fellow with serious pace. So, like, Luke, and I think Cormac Bouzang has a lot of that as well, you know. He's coming under the radar. There's very little talk about him, you know, and he's only, I think he's 22, and but very fast, you know. He's getting a few scores every game. So that's the one thing Midleton have in their forward line is good pace, you know. And if there's one thing McKilly would have been, I suppose people would have been questioning the last few years as their full back line. They would have conceded a lot of goals, particularly last year in the championship. They conceded a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Not so much this year. They probably played fewer games this year, but it's certainly an area where when they've been attacked in the past, teams have done damage. So tis definitely, like, Midleton do have players in them area with a lot of pace and a lot of ability. So, like, tis certainly an area if Midleton can get the ball in early and fast and simple as they could do damage, you know.
And I think as well, like, there'll be a lot expected out of, like, Patrick White there and Cormac Walsh on Sunday. You know, and Padraig Nagel, you know, if he's introduced from the start. Like, those three boys, like, have been, you know, mainstays on the team, say, for the last 2 or 3 years there, through the league campaigns and through the championship campaigns. But, like, they'll need to pop in with scores, you know, not one score, but maybe 2 points each on Sunday, like, because, you know, that'll give Imokilly more fuel to think about as well. Like, the majority of that Midleton team that'll line out on Sunday, the majority of them have played representative hurling for Cork at all levels, coming up through their lifetime in hurling. So, like, there's nothing to fear there in relation to that, but they'll need to get more lads to step up and help out the likes of Lehan, and they'll set up Connor and set up to help Luke on Sunday. Like,
but I think, Jerry, the minor result the other night, you know, was a huge result, and, like, there's 1 or 2 very, very good minors.
Well, you look at Tommy O'Connell there now, has been
Ross
coming
O'Regan,
on in the last. Ross O'Regan got a run out against Stigline. They're like Cian Farmer there now, came in and scored 5 points on. Saw him earlier in the year down below in Duhallow, down in Bantier one Sunday morning when Midleton played Duhallow, and, like, you know, he didn't look out of place there. He was on the ball. You know, he did fine. Like, another young fella that's coming back into the scene and has been in around all year is Garran Manley. They're Ger Manley's son, and, like, Garran is a kind of a championship player, I think, like, you know, and a kind of a player that has come back into the club in the last few years. Wasn't there when I was managing it 2 years ago, but has come back in, is very mature, had spent some time playing with Cork City or been out around with the soccer and so forth. But he's there, he's available, and has come in a few of the senior hurling league games during the course of the year, but is another viable option because makes great runs off the play, you know, is available in space, you know. That's what it's going to be. Yeah. I don't think we'll see any sweepers from either team on Sunday. I don't think we'll have any of that nonsense. I think we'll have 15 on 15, and I think we'll see the subs benches being used by both management teams.
Yeah. We haven't had much of a chance to talk about McKilly. Jerry hijacked it as a Midleton preview night. But Fergal Condon, Sean, said after the semi-final against UCC that it was the first time he had his full panel to pick from. Yeah,
look, I think, you know, like, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you said the divisions and colleges were finished, and they were finished in the championships. There was nothing going on. McKilly lost to Carbery in 2014, you know, and Fergal came in 2015, and he came in a low base. You know, Seamus Harney wasn't available to him, but Paddy Sullivan was back available to him the year after his horrific injury, and I think Brian Lawton. But they started playing regular practice games, and Jerry, you probably would have played them, you know, when Fergal was in charge. He was playing every Monday night. And fellas came on board, and like Timmy Gainey, Ciarán O'Regan, Barrow Tuma from Castlemartyr, William Leahy, you know, and they kind of were the ones driving it on in 2015 and 16. And, you know, it was easy then for the Seamus Hardys and stuff to come back in. Do you know what I mean? They were only missing 1 or 2 very, very good players because they had a lot of solid players around the panel who were committed to McKilly. Do you know? Often in the past, the county fellas would come back and, you know, it was tough for them. They were just coming back and everything was expected of them, but that wasn't the case, I suppose, with the way Fergal built the team and the panel. And they've just built up huge momentum year after year. And, like, you know, when you look back to that night against Carbery, you'd say it was over. Like, you know, like, I'd say McKilly were nearly even contemplating putting the hurling team over at that stage. They're after putting the football out. So like they've made huge strides. And you know, if you look through the panel again, like, you know, I know they got back Bill Cooper and Colin Spillane this year, but Shane Haggerty's been fantastic.
Yes.
You know, and he's not. I suppose Shane would have been involved in Cork 21s a few years ago, and he was knocking around UCC, and like you wouldn't come across a more committed fella than Shane. And Dungourney always 110% with him, and I think in all the games he's been brilliant. Do you know, for it, and like he's a fella, you know, nobody's really talking about. You know, and same with John Cronin, I suppose, and Ciarán O'Regan. Two lesser lights, but really good club players. Really good club players.
Yeah, Dickie Dalton actually came on as a sub the last. He had a great year with the under-21s.
Yeah.
He's a bit like Declan McCarthy. Starting out as a goalkeeper, and he's playing outfield. He played in goals for McKill last year. He's outfield this year.
Yeah.
He could have a big say as well.
He could, like, and he was. I suppose he was outfield for the Cork 21s as well last year. Do you know? So like to think that he wasn't even starting the last is kind of scary from looking in at the team. And Jor Millerick, who was man of the match. Jor Millerick was a minor last year. He was 18. He did fantastic. And I know Jor nearly got nearly 600, 590 points something in his even this year. And he glandular fever. He 2 bouts of glandular fever this season. Do you know? And like to come back and to be where he is. Do you know? And he's knocking on the door again. And last year, I don't think he actually started any game up to the final. Did he last year? I don't think he did. And he started in the final. He was man of the match. Do you know? So like they've huge panel. Great experience in the panel. You know.
While I was I was involved with the Midleton 2 years ago, we did play McKilly one night in a great match below one side in Midleton one Sunday afternoon. Fergal was trying to keep the lads going. It was in the lull period at the time, so we got together one Sunday evening and we had a match inside in Midleton, and I think it turned out about 28 points to 32 in favour of McKilly that night. But it was some game of hurling, so it was. But what I noticed that night with Fergal and the management team, they're like a club team, so they are. McKilly is actually like a club team at the moment. Like, I mean, I was telling you earlier on outside about my brief encounter with them recently, you know, on a Monday night or a Tuesday night above in St. Catherine's. But to me, they're like a club team. Like, there's a great unity of purpose about them, you know, and they have a desire to go for 2 in a row. Like, and I mean, you know, they are the champions, so like, you know, we've the utmost respect for them. Like, you know.
I mean, you look at Imokilly, my playing time in the middle to late 90s, it was kind of Blackrock and Imokilly were the team to beat. And Jerry's right, like they won 2 counties in a row, 97, 98. We were beaten in 95 by them. The divisions actually that time were very strong, because I remember if Avondhu beat us in 96, they won the county in 96, didn't they?
Yeah.
They beat us in the replay. So that time you had Carberry winning it in 94.
Right.
Then 95 we were beaten by ourselves by Imokilly. Avondhu beat us 96, and then we had battles with Blackrock. They beat us 97, they beat us 98, but Imokilly were the team to beat that time. And they contributed hugely to the Cork team later on in National League titles in 98 and Munster and All-Ireland titles in 99 and Munster titles 2000. Like, it was dominated really by Imokilly players, and even players I suppose that weren't on the Imokilly selection because of their clubs. Fellas like Brian Corcoran and that, and Joe Dean. Joe would have been probably UCC at the time, but they were all East Cork division, you know. But that time, coming up against Imokilly, they were fierce united, and this team has a real resemblance to that setup, and it's good for Cork. Like, they produced brilliant players that time. They're producing brilliant players now, and they're producing new players all the time. Like, I counted 5 new players, say, compared to last year starting 15. There's 5 new fellas starting this year, and Sean has mentioned Shane Haggerty, but like Colin Spillane and Bill Cooper, like, they are huge players. They're into county level stuff, and a player as well who I have a lot of time for. I travelled up to Nolan Park earlier in the year to see the intermediate final, and he's had a kind of a mixed enough campaign so far. But I think the likes of Dan Mangan, he's big and strong and burly. Got a couple of points against Newsis Thomas taken off. I was surprised he was taken off, but you'd often find that in the final that a lad, we call him the lesser lights or the lesser known guys. That's no disrespect to Dan Mangan. I think he could be a very, very good player in time. But you'd find a fella sometimes that hasn't had an unbelievable campaign could be a fella that could step up. I think Dan came on as a sub last year, but he'll start, I'd say, Sunday now. And someone like Dan Mangan could step up and be the star. And like the last day in the semi-final against UCC, 5 of their starting forwards scored, and the only fella that didn't score was Dan Mangan. So it's all set up for him to go away and get 2-4 in the final, you know. But you'd often find it in a final that a fella that maybe struggled a little bit earlier in the campaign moves up. But back to the overall point that you're making, Imokilly are a real unit, and just to challenge Jerry's point about the Midleton thing and the Glen thing and, you know, the club thing with the bars and all these great traditional clubs, like, Imokilly have every bit of team ethic inside there, boy, and they'll be riled up, and They're going for their famous 2 in a row. They're hard to get. We got a 2 in a row ourselves in 15 and 16, and maybe we've lost a little bit of momentum in 17 and 18. But like, they're hard to do, and when you get them, you cherish them, when you enjoy them. And we have still fellas that are on the drink after it. We're still celebrating it, to be honest. 2 years later, you know.
Listen, going into the final, I think it's fair to say Imokilly probably had the easier of the semi-finals against the UCC team, although Midleton probably let Blackrock back into that. Is that good going into a final, having a nice tight battle and almost losing it? Or being so strong that you wiped a team of all-stars almost away?
I prefer to go, like, say, when we were playing the All-Ireland series, you could win an All-Ireland in 4 games. If you could win it in 2 games, I think win it in 2. So, you know, the least games, I don't think it matters the fiddlers, whether it was a bad, a hard, or whatever type of semi-final. I think Imokilly have too much experience to get caught that way, and like Hardy and these leaders, you know. I can imagine Seamus during the week in training, driving fellas on, and if fellas like him, like a Roy Keane really in Manchester United, so I could imagine Harry driving fellas on, and if he sees any slackness or lagging off in training sessions, like he's probably for Condon's man out in the field, out in the training ground. So no, I don't think so. I would say, though, having said that Midleton, for me, whether it is lady luck or whether it is just, you know, having that X factor, I think the kind of campaign they've had, say with the likes of Didlane, O'Leary Hayes getting the last minute score, Newtown coming late, nearly catching them. I don't know, were Blackrock ever going to catch them? They did come late. I think Midleton were still going to win. Midleton have a concern, I think. Tommy's been a revelation, but maybe a little bit outside him. They have leaked 5 goals in the last 2 games. They'd have to get really tight in that department. Paddy Sull is a sniper. I saw him against Newcestown. He didn't puck a ball and then bang, go on the point. Like, his point in the wing was worth the injury alone. Yeah. But he was buzzing after his goal. It was a mistake by the Newcestown defender, came across, and Paddy was at the end of it. Yeah. But for me, I just think that Midleton, okay, I'm making a prediction before you even ask me, but I don't think the semi-finals have a bearing on how the final will go. I just think throughout the campaign, Midleton have shown a sort of a grit that possibly will get them over the line. Yeah,
okay, you touched on him there, and we'll leave Jerry out of this because he'll be biased, but puck-out strategy, like, how important are the puck-outs, Sean? I know Dara will probably be in goal, Sarah Callan for McKinley, and Tommy for Midleton.
Yeah, I suppose, like, you know, obviously, you know, Seamus Hardy is, you know, great ball winner, you know, and he's your go-to guy when things go wrong, you know, and Cork have gone to him in the past, like, and they did it this year when against Clare in the Munster final, you know, like, caught a ball out of the air, popped it through, Cork got a goal before half-time, it was just changing of the game. So, like, it is great to have a player like him, you know, always there available, and you know, they've got, like, Willie, he's a good ball winner as well, you know, if he comes out from the full forward line to half forward line. Dan Mangan's a big strong man as well that can win a ball, you know, so they have plenty of options. I don't think they get too caught up in the puck outs, you know. I'd say they just hit him down as often as they can. They just try and hit it to Hardy more often than that, I'd say, but they don't get caught up too much in it. You don't see them hitting short ones anyway. I'd say Midleton will definitely have to have a few things up their sleeve, alright, you know, change it up a bit. Tommy, you might have a few insight into that, I'd say, Jolly, but
does Tommy have a strategy for the Imokilly lads listening?
Short ones.
Tommy's going to hit all short ones.
But I don't think. Look, obviously, puckouts, like, there's going to be probably about 60 puckouts in a match. Do you know what I mean? And you need to be breaking even with the opposition at least. You can't be losing 60-40 or 70-30 in puckouts. So, do you know, like, it's going to be tough. I suppose the weather's going to be a factor the next 2 days. Do you know, hopefully the storm will be finished by Saturday and the weather will be good and the wind will be down and we won't have a wind going down the field like we did in the semi-finals, do you know, and we can just get a good honest game, because sometimes a wind like that can, you know, give it false. It can be very false, you know, and it can give a team momentum as well. So, like, you know, all in factors will come into it, I suppose, and, you know, that's just another sideshow for the weekend. But I think Midleton will probably have a bit more done in that than in McKilly anyway.
I do know that Tommy had a bit of a problem after the semi-final. He came to me on the Sunday night, around 11:30, 12 o'clock, and he said, I have a problem. He says, I've no hurleys left, he said, right? And I said, well, what are you going to do? Well, he says, we cannot buy them within the division, so Liam Welch, we're really sorry, okay? So I know there's a crowd down there in Waterford, Flanagan, and there's a crowd above, I thought they were called Torpedo, right? But they're Torpy hurleys, right? So there was a couple of cars delegated out to both Torpies and Flanagans, and my understanding is Tommy has about 12 new goalkeeping hurleys for Sunday, lads, with bigger bosses.
Well, a couple of years ago I played in goals for Longford over in Warwickshire, Went out for the practice before the match, and all my hurleys broke. I only had an old plain hurley for the goal, and we got hockeyed in the end.
Well, I do know that he said to me afterwards, like when he saved the penalty from Patrick Horgan in the semi-final or in the quarter-final or in the fourth round, he is, you know. There was a gale force wind blowing with Patrick. The wind picked up just as Patrick was hitting the ball, but no one knows that Tommy had broken his hurley before that. So he was playing with the cornerback's hurley, Shaney Smith's hurley for the save. So I mean, you know,
Lady luck.
Didn't
too many go from the huggies, shots and save.
He's really thrown himself at everything. Like even that semi-final, I mentioned he might have got a bit of a scalp. He also picked the ball up off the ground, I think, in that situation. Which
Joe Lockton was very unfair to him. Joe was very
unfair.
To be fair,
Tommy admitted he picked the ball up in the press night, but like he's really thrown himself at anything. Like a proper goalkeeper, I suppose.
Look, I'm going up on. I remember being involved with Cork with under O'Grady and Allen. Some people thought we were the most scientific group of people ever that were involved with the Cork hurling team, right? And I remember we were above it in an All-Ireland semi-final one year, or quarter-final, we were playing Wexford. And we came in at half-time and it was in the melting pot, and all I remember was Tom Kinney's mother had been over in Lourdes or somewhere, and she had given him a bottle of holy water. Right. And at half-time, Tom opened the bottle of holy water, and Ciarán O'Regan turned and he said, Wallace, do you think we could drink this and get a bit of spiritual guidance? And I said, well, look, lads, I was training the lads, so I said, look, I'll do it. I'll taste the water, and if I'm okay, the rest of you have a slug. So from Cusack right out to number 16, we all had a whip out of the bottle. Now, I hope Tommy behaves himself on Sunday, and I hope McKilly behave themselves, and they keep putting the ball over the bar. Because I had a bit of a heart complaint a few years ago, and I don't want it back again, all right? Because the last day inside in County there might be someone like Bishop Buckley might be coming down to anoint me or something at the stadium.
Sean, we mentioned this. We mentioned this off air, I suppose. The referee can have a bearing. Jim Kerwin, top referee, appointed to do the final this year. Both teams will be happy with that.
I think so. You know, like, look, he keeps the game going. He's very fair, you know, and, you know, if it's a free, you know, with Dermot, and he's strict in it, and that's that. You know, you rarely come off a game with Dermot and you say you feel hard done by. You know, I don't think I've been involved with any teams that have, when Dermot's been referee, and I've been saying, geez, he's favoured one side or been awful there tonight. You know, he's consistent, and you know what you're getting with him. You know, and he's always gives the same performance, you know, and of course people are going to disagree with a few decisions and so on, but like I think universally, you know, people are definitely happy with the choice for Sunday, and you know, he's probably the best referee in Cork at the minute. You might argue with that, Ciarán, but you know, it's fitting in that the best referee gets the best gigs, and you know, I don't think anyone has any complaints with that.
No, I think, like, when both teams are preparing for the match and they're looking forward to the game, like Midleton will have frees to score from, which will mean Lehan will have frees to score from. Leahy will have frees for McKilly to score from. So there's going to be frees. Like, it's just a matter of, you know, how many and how the game is, you know, progressing. But Kerwin is definitely the best referee we have in Cork. Okay. And I mean, he goes down there to Kerry. He referees down there every year as well. He referees at the national level all the time, right up to the All-Ireland finals. I mean, he's the man for this occasion, like, you know, at this moment in time, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'll
go to
yeah, no problem.
You mentioned as well the price of the tickets. Going into the final. I don't know what they are in other counties, but no, there's two games on as well. There's a double-header, the Intermediate Hurling Championship final. Ballincollig are in that.
Well, Ciarán, tis a brilliant weekend of hurling for Cork. Like, we've a very good Ballincollig Blackrock game. Yeah. Followed by the McKilly Midleton game. Now that could have been like Newtown, it could have been the Glen, it could have been, you know, the Blackrock as well there, you know, or any of the teams that were beaten by McKilly. So, like, we're not taking away from any other team, but the reality is we have Midleton and McKilly, and I suppose the reality of it is I think everyone got a bit of a shock at the start of the week when they saw that it was €25. Like, 2 adults is £50. If you have a child over 16, it's €20. So already you're after, you know, you have a lot of money gone to just come in the gate. Program will probably be £5, you know, it's a collector's item, you know, so I mean, you know, what would be the attendance on Sunday? Will we get 24,000 there, will we?
It was only 15,000 last year, I think,
was it?
so, like, and that was the senior football final as well, double header, so.
Yeah.
But but Ballincollig you'd expect to bring a good crowd, do you know?
Yeah, I think there's
like,
a number of buses
they
actually.
are, and
nobody's driving in, everybody's getting
no
a bus in from
and like
Ballincollig.
Ballincollig's underage is massive now. Do you know what I mean? They're as strong as anyone underage in hurling, and you'd expect all them kids now to be bringing their parents stuff to weekend. But I think to go back to the prices, look, it's hard for me to say much about it. But I was just talking to a father yesterday and he's going to the match, and like he's his wife and he's to pay for 2 of the kids as well. Do you know, it's €90. You know, if there was a package or a deal there, like I suppose that's all people would be asking. You know?
When we all went online to see when it was released from the county board, the packaging, there was no family tickets available. We'd say, like, it would be good if it was available. I know that lads under 16 are allowed in free on Sunday. The concession to the old age pensioners, I think, is 20 quid as well. Like, you know, but look, it's a fact of life, I suppose, going forward today. But it's a big draw on families at the moment, I'd say. You know, it's a big draw.
I thought you were putting yourself in the OIP bracket there for a second, Jerry. I know what I want.
I'm not far off that. No,
free travel and everything.
Free travel, Sean.
I could be your sponsor. Your partner.
We could do.
He gets free as well, didn't he?
We could go to Dublin next year, Charlie.
Up the Croker,
as a championship as a whole, I think there's been 36 matches played, 105 goals. That's 2.92 goals per game, and well over 1,000 points scored. It's been a exciting game, or a championship, I suppose, from scores wise anyway. The points wise, it's 32 points per game, I think, on average.
Yeah, that's great shooting. I mean, the goals one is quite interesting. Like, I suppose our marquee forwards at intercounty level would be probably Patrick Horgan, Conor Lehan, who we mentioned, Shamey Harady. Alan Cadding was a huge loss this year, massive loss actually. And I would actually say that if they had him against Limerick, they'd have beaten Limerick. But you have to go kind of back to the John Fitzgibbon era nearly for a real outstanding goal scorer from Cork forward perspective. So that's interesting. There are high goals. It would be great if a forward in Cork came to the fore and he became a goal scoring forward. Even though the game has changed and maybe it's a game where the ball is lighter and there's more points scored than ever, it's still the goals that get fellas up off their seats. And at the end of the day, it's the goals that kind of win the games. You look at the Clare-Galway game, the lad Shanahan was straight in, hit the post. Maybe Shane O'Donnell should have followed him more, but that goal would have won the game for him. Yeah. So, okay, points are fantastic, brilliant. They're high goals, and it would be nice to see a Cork forward come up now from the underage ranks. There's the lad Evan Sheehan, if he could develop and become a good forward. He was a very good underage player. You know, if you could get a couple of those goal-scoring club players up to an intercounty level, we haven't had a real goal-scoring forward in a long time in Cork.
Yeah, and I suppose the Trevi, have you seen, you touched on it earlier on, Shawnee, John Myler has been to, I'd say, almost every game in the county championship, not just senior but other grades. I've seen him at under 21 matches. Like, I've asked him twice this year, have you seen anyone in club championship? He just throws the question back at me because he's seen me at them. But has there been have you seen players that might potentially be putting their hands up for a call up for next year for the panel, maybe to have a tryout?
With senior, I suppose, not so much with the well, you know, obviously there's a lot of senior players, but I would be very I would have been involved in 17s last year, obviously, and a few of them fellas really stood up for me this year. Like Sean Toomey from Courses, you know, he's only under 18. He got 3 goals in the first round of championship this year. You know, for an 18-year-old, it's his fair shooting. And I think like Ronan Sheehan and Mallow, like again, he's only under 18. The 2 Roaches and Bride Rovers played all the championship games. They were fantastic. You know, so like you can certainly see a lot of players that, and like Sean O'Leary Hayes, obviously as well. He wasn't involved with 21s this year. I think you can see a lot of players that weren't even on the 21 team this year, that are 17, 18, that are 19, that are just maybe doing exams or whatever this year, that have played fantastic games in the championship, and I think that's been pleasing.
Who's there from Midleton didn't make an under 21 hurling team of Cork this year, you know, and having an outstanding year. But I think the question, Ciarán, like for John, like that question is thrown every year, I think, you know, and to inter-county managers, and like I think John had us. We were very close last year to the ultimate prize again, which every Corkman wants. Is we want the Lee McCarthy back in Cork. So, like, does John go away now and dismantle that program that he has in place, or does he stay with those players and give trust and, you know, bring them to the next level? And the next level for us as Corkman is the All Ireland Final Sunday. Like we were there this year. You know, had the game been seen out, or had we come up with something, you know, on the field in the last minutes to stop the Limerick onslaught, we would have been there in the final. And I think a Cork Galway final, we would have won it. Like, but I think maybe John has to go back and look at maybe some older players and look at some of the younger players and then find his happy medium and then decide, you know, I've no doubt with his coaches, like with Fraggy and with his other coaches that are involved with him, that he'll decide the way they want to play. Like, I mean, Seanie knows, like, Seanie's been there like 99, Sean, when we won against Kilkenny. That was Tommy's first All-Ireland. He came with me that day. We were behind the dugout with G. We were only there as spectators, but, like, you know how hard it is, Sean, to get back to Crow Park again. You went back there the following year, remember, in 2000, and Offaly took us in the semi-finals, remember?
Yeah.
I think, and it's so hard, so it is, Ciarán, to get, you know, to bring together a group of players and get them to that. We're so close last year again. You know, you could look at Limerick this year, like, you could have said Limerick through the Munster campaign, you know, the night below in the park, you know, draw a match with Cork, 14 men, but then they went up to Clare, and you'd even wonder the question now, did they want to play against Clare that day? It looked to me like they were overtrained that week running into it, because they wanted the ultimate prize, which they were determined to, you know, to do. They have a system in place for the last, say, 5, 6, 7 years, but they were looking to try and win an All-Ireland title. And I think we in Cork, we look at our All-Ireland titles as how we judge ourselves, and we haven't got one since...
Yeah, but your point is valid there, Jerry, but you don't dismantle anything. Like.
You can.
Cork are very, very close. You throw a fit Alan Cadigan in it, he got 6 or 7 points. 6 or 7 points against the Bears at his ease. Like. He's a sharpshooter. Brian Turnbull hopefully will get a good recovery from his, again, very, very bad injury.
Yeah, he's back out. He was with the under-21s last week.
Yeah, and like, where are Cork at the moment? Cork are a very good team, very good players. But say, rewinding back to that time, Jerry, in the 90s, like there was players came on there that were once-in-a-lifetime players. Like, Brian Corcoran is a once-in-a-lifetime player. The Rock is a once-in-a-lifetime player. Like, Cork have brilliant players at the moment, but they don't have once-in-a-lifetime players. Like, Corcoran will be spoken about in the year 2120. Like he's just a freak player. Like, so... You know, Cork, when they were winning All-Irelands and dominating, you go back further to Moss Mulcahy and Tony Sullivan, these players in the early 90s, and Jimmy Barry before that, and Hennessy and Shawnee Leary, and obviously back to the Rings time. They're all iconic names. Have we got iconic players playing now? I think Patrick Horgan and them are brilliant, brilliant players. Absolutely super hurlers. But that real marquee iconic player, like I played with Brian Corcoran, he was just something else. And it's only when you're getting older you might get a rewind of a game, and you might see a game that you were playing in and looking at it going, whoa, I didn't realise he was that good.
Yeah.
So like Cork don't have those players at the moment. In reality, they have fabulous players. John Myler's done a great job with the players at his disposal. Jordy is right. You do not break anything apart. You look at tinkering a little bit. Mark Ellis supposedly is going to Dubai or somewhere next year. I don't know if it's true. It'd be a big loss, like. So we've got to get that defence 100% locked in. We've got to get Cadigan back and fit, and hopefully Turnbull, and then you're not that far off.
And I think I think Tim O'Mahony playing centre forward and full forward for Newtown this year. Like,
played well last
you know,
night.
I went to see him against Kilkenny in the opening round of the National Hurling League last year below in the park. What a night below in the park! Like a real great night. Tim was centre back, like, but like to me in the club hurling, like, you know, he's a kind of a go-to man. He's like the Ray Cummins or the Alan Brown. You know, the people where you could get the ball to him and he'd offload it. Like, and I think like someone like that, if John Myler decided to settle through the middle where who he wants.
Yeah, but
like,
Jerry, what John Myler needs to settle on as well is, again,
I'm sorry for that.
Is where's Tim going to play? Like, he played most of the league last year, was it kind of centre-back, half-back, and then he came on as a forward. No, I remember Tim from minor days, but he came on the forward line even in the earlier round in the championship. Was it against Tip or someone?
He did, in Munster.
Munster, wasn't it? And you're kind of going, whoa, what's going on here? Like, even for the young himself, like, it's a huge difference between playing half-back and in forwards. So he's a talent.
I think he's a
big
talent.
Time. But settling a position and giving loads of games in that position, both league and championships.
Yeah, I suppose development of players, this is your area.
Yeah.
You may as well get a plug in now, Sean. But look, teams coming up through have been going well. Like.
They've been going well, yeah. Like, and look, I suppose we don't want to rest on our laurels either. You know, we need to keep going well, and I think we're just producing a lot of good players now. You know, and you know, good attitudes. You know, you look at Sean Larry Hayes there, and Jerry, you'd know him in Midleton. I would have been involved with him a bit down through the years at the TBS and stuff, and like great attitudes. Jerry Mellerick, you know, and I suppose they're doing well off the field and as well academically, you know, and that's very important. You know, you look at the lads in Limerick, you look at the Keele Lynch and these fellas, they're in Mary I, they're studying, they're in college, they're playing college hurling, and that's huge for a player's development. And I think Tim made that breakthrough last year with Mary I. He was on the Mary I team, you know, Tim Manny, and like that kind of put him out there, you know, and you need to kind of, I suppose it's important now that Sean, Larry Hayes, John Mellerick and these fellas, they put themselves out there and they start playing good college hurling, and get competitive again, because that's where Seamus Harnedy, I suppose, the last wave of fellas came. UCC were successful, and Brian Lawton, Seamus Lawton, or Seamus Harnedy, and a few of them came through that. So it is important now that these players, I suppose, to develop further, they go into the colleges and they start playing college hurling to a good level and hopefully doing well, you know.
I heard one of the older men involved with the club below at the moment. He said, like, it's amazing to go into the dressing room with Midleton now. He said, after a match in the earlier stages, in the past, fellas would be wanting to know where they're going for the night to the pub. Most of these guys were on top of foam rollers, and they were doing other. They're kind of clued into the game that they're living in right now. It's way different, I say, from going back to the 80s and the 90s.
You tried that though, 4 or 5.
What's that, a foam roller?
I thought you done a lot of that.
I wouldn't even know what a foam roller is.
Look, I'm you have a coaching meeting to develop the next bit of talent coming through. But I'll have to ask you separate questions to Shawnee. But first, I suppose, to Sean, where do you think the game can be won and lost?
I think Conor Lehan, obviously, I think, look, to all depending on his fitness, if he can hold up for 60 minutes and Midleton on the game coming down the home straight, then they'll need him. Do you know what I mean? Because he can come up good when the going gets tough. So, I suppose if you were to ask me earlier in the year, I wouldn't have said Midleton would be in this position. I just think they lost Killian Burke and Aggie Carney, and I just thought they had a lot of young fellas coming through, and I thought maybe it'd take them a few more years. But I suppose looking at them in the junior A football, and I think that's something that's missing here tonight. Midleton, I know Jerry brought back the football a few years ago, and Midleton, they had done very little in a few years, and he started introducing it into their training. But they absolutely hammered everyone in these Cork this year in the junior A football, and it's the same group of players, and they went down to the county. I know they beat Orne, and they played a different panel last week, obviously because of the final this week. But as a team, as a club, and as a group of players, you could see real unity with them this year, and they win against the Glen. Obviously, it looked like they were going to lose at one stage. In the second half, you say Glen are going to win this now. They didn't. They dug in. They got the result, and they just seem to have fierce momentum going into the final. And I just think they've been probably in tougher matches than Imokilly so far this year. Now, Imokilly, that's through no fault of their own. Newstown really put it up to them, I suppose, and they were lucky to come away in the end. They looked like they were going to ramp home, and they didn't. So, if I was to call it, I still think it'll all come down to whether if Imokilly plays to their potential. I think it's hard to make a case, but if it's a tight game, then it really could go anyway.
Yourself, Jerry.
Let's just go up here for a moment, Ciarán. I'll be back in one moment. Shawnee can talk.
Well, you give the neutral view. Who do you think will win it?
Like I said earlier, I suppose that Midleton seem to have, whether it is with Lady Luck or that X Factor or whatever. Lehan is a huge player, definitely. I suppose, just removing the focus from Lehan, and he's going to have huge focus on him on Sunday. Someone like Finbar O'Mahony in the full back line, like Killian Burke, I think is a good player. Killian Burke's a very, very good player and did well with Cork, but was a brilliant Midleton player. And steadied that.
He's playing very well over in London.
Playing well in London. When he talked to someone, Mick O'D, the other day about him. Sorry, what you here he is.
Well, we thought he was gone because he didn't fancy Midleton's chances, but he's come back anyway. But just to finish your point, Shawnee.
I think if someone, I can't take it serious now with him like that. Could have him. You fill it out well, Jerry. Bye. Sit on your boys.
The boys up by.
You have a bye. I think if Midleton's full back line are good and tough and tight, there's a threat inside in that Imokilly full forward line. So if Finbar O'Mahony can lead the charge as well from there, pick up from where Killian Burke has left off. I think Midleton have a right chance, and I'd be just about predicting them.
Yeah, well, no fear of who this fella is going for.
Well, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think if Midleton can manage the periods of play when we're not in the game, and not allow Imokilly, build up a score or leading us, I think that's the big question, because I think the talent that Imokilly have, if Midleton allowed them to dominate for periods and allow them to put the scores on the scoreboard without, answering the scores, I think then we'll have problems. I think, yes, the games to date have identified we are conceding goals and we are exposing ourselves, but I think that our coaching staff and our players have been working on that for the last few weeks. And I think we have huge respect for Imokilly, we have huge respect for the players. We're all interlinked between families, between work, every day of the week, we're all involved with each other. There's great spirit amongst the players. The majority of those players cross over with CIT teams, UCC teams, development squads with Cork over the last number of years. So on Sunday, If Midleton are there with about 10 minutes to go, I see us winning by a point. Tommy Sausta for shin. Tá na Dini Goléir as managed na Corn Sausta for shin. Tá Corn ag teach the rest go vanished on the Corn.
It's really hijacked tonight, hasn't he? Give us a
They're on
full,
the show, but
give us
there's a song there while you're on it.
give us a
Would
full
you
time.
like, there was one old song that Gerald Mack used to love when we'd be travelling into Thurles and O'Grady and John Allen, and that was from the Wolf Tones, you know. Don't give up till it's over. Don't quit till you can.
Give us a full time score.
And the full-time score, it'll be 21 points. The winning of a county final over the last, say, 30 years, if you go back over all the county finals, you have to be able to score around 21 to 24 points.
Okay.
Club hurling at this time of the year, you have to be able to manufacture that. So I think it'll be maybe 119, you know, to 118. It'll be something in that range. It'll be a very close game. You won't see a score of 30 points, you know, unless this thing takes off completely. Like, but I do think that if a team that can manufacture between 21 to 24 points on Sunday, you know, either in goals and points, they'll win it.
Yeah.
You know, they'll win it.
And it was full time scores.
Yeah, it's hard to put a full-time score, and I think Jerry's point is right. Like, Intercounty's gone up to nearly 30, I suppose, Jerry.
Yeah.
But definitely a
30,
club, and as the season is pushing on and pitches are getting that little bit heavier, 24. I think Imokilly, did they get 318 or something last year, which is 27, was it? Am I right? They're above
They're
anyway.
around that,
What was it?
Yeah.
Wait a while now. Was it that? Something like that. So that's 27. That exceeds the 24 that Jerry's talking about. And both teams have shown the capacity to get big scores. I said 5 of the Imokilly's starting forward line scored the last day. 1 didn't. It was the exact same for Midleton. Cormac Watch was the only fellow for Midleton, I think, and he can score. Cormac has that in his locker as well. So 21 plus. Okay, just for putting a score out there. Yeah, I'm not sure if Midleton. Yeah, they'll probably get a goal. Yeah, 119, 120. I think there's goals, real goals inside Imokilly. So 120 is 23. Imokilly 312, 21. 2-point win for Midleton.
The sweats are after coming.
Look, when I met the Imokilly selectors there recently, it was by pure chance. I was in the same facility they were. I just said to the lads, I said, look, would you ever instruct the lads on Sunday, like, you know, tell the lads to tap the ball over the bar. 30 points we don't mind, but let Tommy alone inside the goals on Sunday, for God's sake, lads. You know.
Well, I'll leave you off the full-time score. Before we go, I wasn't ignoring it as I was refreshing because the Munster Football Championship draw was being done tonight. I won't ask you your opinions. In the quarter-final, Tipperary will play Limerick in quarter-final A and quarter-final B. Clare take on Waterford. Of course, Cork and Kerry being kept separate again this year. Kerry will play the winners of Clare and Waterford, and Cork will play the winners of Tip and Limerick in the Munster Football Championship draw. And earlier on today, I think it was announced by Munster GA that every team will have the weekend of May 26th in around that as a free weekend for the Munster Championship. That's good. A bit of a break to break it up.
Absolutely. Like, at the end of the day, they're amateurs. I know, and Jerry's right. The standards have gone way up. Foam rollers, nutrition. Cork have appointed in the last couple of years Gary Keegan on the psychology side, and he's been a revelation. But they're still amateurs. They still have to get up. They've got niggling injuries. So I think break is good.
I remember after the semi-final between Galway and Clare, the drawn game in Croke Park earlier this year, I was talking to Donald O'Grady on the Monday morning after the match, and I said to Donald, you were involved with Cork teams, you managed Cork teams. I had the privilege of training Cork teams and being around great Cork players. But I said, we watched the match that Saturday where I think the statistics showed there was about 90 puck-outs in 90 minutes of hurling. That meant the ball was in play, or the ball was going back into play every 30 seconds of the game, or maybe within 40 seconds. I think in the All-Ireland semi-final against Limerick, Nash pucked the ball out to the middle of the field to Daniel Carney, straight over the bar. I think that play lasted in total 25 seconds, and that means Limerick were pucking the ball back out. Now, last point from me, Ciarán, is this. The Fergal in Imokilly. Remember the old Carpenter song, players only love you when they're playing. And I hope you have sleepless nights, Fergal.
Right, well, we'll leave it on that point. Well, look, we're hoping for a fantastic game. So, Jerry Wallace, Sean McGrath, and Sean Crowley, late substitute. Thanks very much for that as well. Thanks very much for joining us. And look, I suppose at the end of the day, we're all hoping for a fantastic game and on Sunday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And a very big thanks as well to Rebecca, who's on sound, audio visuals and everything inside her behind the scenes. So until Sunday, I suppose we'll talk to you again.